Welcome to today's webinar, 7 Things You Must Do to Prepare for a Successful 2019, presented by Spirion. I'm Tariq Kamal with Auto Dealer Today, and I'll be your moderator. I encourage you to ask questions at any point during the presentation, and we will try to address them all. However, if we don't get to yours, don't worry. You will receive a response by email after the event. Our presenter today is Mark Tewart, President of Tewart Enterprises. He is a widely recognized expert in sales sales marketing, sales management, personal development, and motivation. He has more than 2 decades of automotive industry experience. He is an in-demand consultant, writer, and speaker who performs more than 80 seminars a year as a professional member of the National Speakers Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Tewart.
Thank you, Tariq. I appreciate that very much, and welcome everybody. Today's program is 7 things you must do to prepare for a successful 2019. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say that nobody wants to just survive, you want to thrive. But if you could face a slowdown in the winter months, if that happens, not saying it will, but if it does, or in the marketplace, our goal is not to survive, but to thrive as well. I often say that when times are bad, you should do good, and when times are good, you should do good. You should always do well. It's just a matter of what level. So what we're going to do is try to promote the 7 things that will help you be successful, and there's no better time to work on it than right now coming into the next month. So what's the first thing I would invite you to do? Number 1, go back to basics. To use football vernacular, which I often do, block and tackle. So often we get so far out into the weeds of things that we're doing, not only with our technologies, but in our processes, our advertising, and every single thing that we do every day. We get so far off into the weeds that we forget to block and tackle. You know, if it were a football game, football games are one up front with the linemen, and they're one up front by blocking and tackling and basics. It's not the trick plays, and often they say one of the most important things in a sports vernacular is the Jimmies and Joes. It's not the X's and O's. So when it comes to the Jimmies and Joes, meaning your team members and your personnel, what are we doing every single day? That is our basics of our game plan. If you're managers, what are your top 3? When you walk in the door, do you know the first thing that you do, if it's your top 3 that you do religiously? Why? Success is about creating successful rituals that become habits. If you're a salesperson, what is your top 3? Is it pre-planned? Do you have a pre-planned day so you know what you're going to do once you hit the door rather than wasting time when you get there? And it's the same way all the way through, whether it's a touch point, what I call an MOT with a customer. You have to know what you're going to do to improve your chances for every single time you get up to bat. So if it's an email, if it's a text, if it's a meeting and greet, if it's a presentation demonstration, or if you're a manager, what will you be doing with your first 3 things? What do you do for your Save a Deal meetings, your one-on-ones, and your coaching? What brings you the highest ROI? That's why I want you to look at the top 3 things you do first in the morning and what I call TOT, the one thing. What is the one thing I should do right now that would put me, if not now, later on, nose to nose, toes to toes with the customer to try to improve my process? So that's based upon what we're looking at here as customer experience, those MOTs. So let me give you a few ideas. If you're in a BDC or an internet department, I want you to go back and peruse with great critical eye all of your templates, your phone scripts, and anything else that you use. I want you to put some personalization. And some people may disagree with me about this, but if it sounds like a salesperson, in other words, too salesy, if it sounds robotic, and if you don't talk like that, don't write like that. Don't send out an email that sounds like it's some form letter and that it's spoken by a robot. If your phone scripts cause you to do that, rewrite them in a personalization manner that would make sense for your dealership. I want you to think about when the customer comes in, how do you meet and greet them? I often talk about when a customer comes in the door, I take away their objection right up front by saying, "Hi folks, welcome to our dealership. Are you out beginning to look and shop around a little bit today? Why? Because 99% of the time the customer says, if you greet them regularly, I'm just looking, I'm just shopping. So what we try to do is look at the whole process and create what I call a water slide mechanism. In other words, if you went to a park and there were water slides, you would get into the slide, you would get to your goal, you would gain momentum and speed in the water slide. There would be nothing to stop you. You always reach your destination. And I want a great sales process to be the exact same thing in a customer experience. So identify where it is at your dealership when the customer starts to go, where they start to reject you, where they start to hesitate, where they start to get fearful, or which causes a bad experience as well, such as waiting too long to get into the F&I department. I often talk about eliminating silos in dealerships. I think the future is not going to be a new car, a used car, and F&I. I think it's going to be cross-training all of your managers so that if a customer was up for F&I, whether it's for a turn originally or to paper a deal at the beginning or at the end of the deal, I think whoever's up. Why is it that just F&I has to take that turn? That creates log jams. It creates bad customer experience. So look at each and every touch point with a customer and think about what can I do to take away those hesitation points, those fear points, and what can I do to improve the overall customer experience and to sometimes speed it up. The next thing is in your processes. You have to think about not only how you're going to meet and greet a customer, but often one of the touch points and fear points is the trade-in. I personally believe in bringing the trade-in right up front. Why? Because it's a big objection point, especially in the digital and internet age. With people getting all the information, they still want to verify what the trade-in value is of their vehicle. So often when we're working with salespeople, we'll say, folks, what I would like to do with you, Mr. Customer, if you would allow me to, notice my language, if you would allow me to, I want to walk out with you to your present vehicle for just a moment. I'm going to take my cell phone and I'm going to scan your VIN number, your serial number. That's going to shoot that inside to some web-based software that we have. It's going to search within several hundred miles and come up with a very accurate real-time market value for your vehicle. And I've noticed that when we do this right up front, Mr. Customer, it will save you a lot of time. So you want to program the customer you're saving them time. Number two, Mr. Customer, while we're out at your vehicle, I do want to ask you a couple questions about what you like or don't like about your vehicle and what's changed since you bought that vehicle until now considering this new vehicle. And when I do that, I often come up with some ideas that might even help you save some money. Fair enough? So I'm going to save them time, save them money. I'm going to program into their subconscious what the end result was going to be. And you can even utilize this with some great verbiage. Example, when I'm greeting and talking with a customer, before we go even out to the vehicle, I'm going to plant what I call an SDP, a specific defining proposition. So I'll say to the customer, Mr. Customer, I am just like if you stayed at a very nice hotel, they have a concierge. I'm a car buyer concierge. I just help you get what you want, when you want it, how you want it, and the way you want it. I want you to have the very best buying experience of anything you've ever bought in your life. Fair enough? So I'm going to plant the seed very strong about it being about them, not about me. Why? TLC, think like a customer, and the Greek root of the word sell means to serve. Start serving people. Stop trying to sell them, and you'll sell more than you've ever sold. So now I say, Mr. Customer, let me ask you a question. When you go to buy a car in the past, when you were shopping or buying, have you ever had a bad experience? And you're often going to hear the customer say, well, yeah. And I said, have you ever taken way too long to shop and buy for a car? It just took all day at the dealership? And when the customer says, yeah, I said, well, I'm glad you said that. Me too. And that's exactly why I want to walk over to the vehicle, your vehicle first, because when we go there first, just very briefly, it's going to save you and I a bunch of time. Fair enough? So now you've planted the seed to be different and unique. You're what I call contrarian, opposite, different, and unique. So create your process based upon a customer experience. And then what is your activity? Often I see with CRMs, they're very time-based. Follow up in 1 day, 3 day, 5 day. What if you got a customer that's going to be on vacation for 2 weeks and they told you contact them when they get back? But your CRM is maybe forcing you to try to call them, and you're getting hounded by managers because it's time-based. We have to look at our activities every day, because our activities in our CRM, rather than just being time-based, have to utilize some common sense. So I want to look at every single thing we do within our CRM, within our game plan, and what our daily plan is, both managers and salespeople. Do not be a wing it. Make sure you walk in with a game plan that you created for your activity for the night before. And then next, follow-up. What are you doing to move the ball forward on each follow-up? Not do you have any other questions, or I'm just following up. I know that's important, but you have to think like a customer. Think HFG, hope for gain. What increases their urgency? What changes the question that they have to answer now to move the ball forward, rather than when they were with you when they came in and did not buy the car? Always be thinking about your intentional congruence, meaning what step I'm at now, where I want to go, and where I want the customer to be, and how I can help them get there. There must be some intentional congruence to get from A to B, not just I'm just following up, or did you have any further questions? Next, I want you to network, prospect, and market. If you're a salesperson, more than ever, old school is now new school. And what I mean by that is you're going to take the old school that you market yourself, you network yourself, you prospect. But over the years, things have become so good in the last 5, 6, 7 years with really record markets, we've relied on a lot of traffic and other sources of the customers. And we're going to have to go back to a little bit of old school at prospecting. Do you have your own website? Are you utilizing Facebook correctly? Do people know what you do? Are you using video every day? Are you using Facebook Live? Are you posting YouTube videos? Are you doing walk-arounds of vehicles when the customer comes in or when they contact you about a particular vehicle? You have to be able to network, prospect, and build a market. You have to think like a CEO if you're the salesperson. You have to think that this is your business and you got to build it. Next, your daily management activities. 2, I believe in. Number 1, when you walk in every day as managers, have that save a deal meeting. Go over yesterday's sold deals. What is the disposition and where is that vehicle, or where is that deal at? Is it at the bank? Is it in the back office? Is it in your finance department? Is it funded? We have to look at the contracts in transit, and we want to go over every sold deal to make sure that nothing has been left undone. Number 2, the unsold deals. I want to see how we can put that deal together. I want to look at the bureau. I want to look at the trades. I want to look at what the customer said from beginning to end and what the final objection was. What are you doing to put those deals together? If customers are shopping 1.2 dealerships versus 5.4, if that statistic is true, that means when they come in, they're ready. And if we did not get them, we have to make sure that we're putting all hands on deck to make sure that we get them when they leave. Make sure, because not everybody buys the first time in, that we're doing a Save a Deal meeting. Next, I think critically we have to do one-on-one coaching with salespeople. I start with my top salesperson first, and that top salesperson, I just generally ask, what can I do for you today that would allow you to sell more vehicles? Number 2, spot call some of their unsold customers. I would like to see managers over and beyond a BDC calling every unsold customer that walked in the door yesterday. I want a huge sense of urgency. This is still a now business. So look at your daily management activities as an all hands on deck. And I'm going to say I would like for the managers to greet the customer up front and do that as a TO rather than a TO at the end. You could still TO at the end, but if you're going to TO at the end of the deal, turn over that customer, why not do it in the very beginning when it can have the biggest impact of you touching and talking to that customer right up front? And then make sure with your CRM and in your Save a Deals and your one-on-ones that you are an appointment-driven culture. You're creating appointments. That's what we're looking for. Create an appointment-driven culture. How many appointments and how can I help you drive more appointments today? So I want to ask you a poll question. Poll question number 1, does your dealership have a formal training program? And when I say formal, it's written or communicated. It's something you do all the time. It's not just a manufacturer's training program or every once in a while or just sending a seminar every once in a while. It's an ongoing, well thought out, formalized training program. If you would, all of you listening, take that poll. Some dealerships do it informally, and it's a kind of on an as-needed, what they feel is an as-needed basis. But do you have one that is continually training in multiple different ways, and it's well thought out, it's written? Is it formal or is it informal, if you'd answer that? Okay. As you're answering those questions, Tariq, did you want to address those now or move on through the presentation?
Oh, let's see what we got. Oh, let's address it now. We've got a good reaction here.
Okay.
So, according to the results so far, the predominant answer is no. 57% of respondents said they do not have a formal training program, compared with 43% who said they do have a formal training program.
That's interesting, but something I think I could have predicted. And the reality is, I have a little saying: as much as things change, they stay the same in the automotive industry. We are way behind in formalized training people. I believe, and let's go to the next slide to talk about in our presentation what I mean by that. So number 2 thing that you have to do to be successful going into next year: train until you educate, meaning you train until somebody becomes educated. They are unconsciously competent. If it's handling an objection, your price is too high, the trade value is not enough, the payment is too high, I don't want to put that kind of money down, I'm not sure I want it in red, or how you would handle a phone call, inbound, outbound. What do you do in your job daily? How do you prospect? Where do you go to do this? All these things you have to train until you become educated. A training program is something that's done every once in a while. It gives you a sunburn, and then you hurt. Whereas education is a daily thing. So let's look at what I call the interview process of it. That means that if you were being interviewed, somebody would ask you who, what, when, where, why, those type of questions. So what I'm looking at is, when do you train? If it were me, every single day, religiously, without fail. You don't do training every once in a while. If it's a football team, you train every day. So even if it's just 10 minutes, I believe that'd be great. 10 or 15 minutes. Why? Because if you're doing classroom style training, as an example, I have a little saying that your brain can only gain what your butt can maintain. So I don't want us as ADD creatures to have to sit too long. Do one specific thing, drill on it, and keep repetitively coming back to it. Maybe the next day you change it up and then you go on to something else. So we're going to look at how often do you do it? I think every day. But even if you did it 3 times a day and it was formalized, managers, draw up a training calendar and write down who, what, when, where, and know what it's going to be and pass them out. Everybody has to know when they're going to learn next. And salespeople, if you're in a dealership that's not training you, just like this just said, you can't be a victim. Go train yourself. You are 100% responsible for your results. Every day, read, listen, watch. There's all different ways that you can self-educate. And I'll bring up the great quote by Jim Rohn, who said that a college education can get you a job, but self-education can make you rich. The best of the best are always self-educated people. Know when, how often, where you're going to do it, how long, who's going to do it. It shouldn't always be managers. You should rotate, and salespeople should have a role in doing this as well. I would invite outside speakers. I would talk about non-sales topics, dress, nutrition, health, all kinds of different things. So just make sure that you have a formalized training program. Now, that brings us to our next poll question, number 2. Does your dealership currently have a formal service to sales program? In other words, you're trying to drive sales from your service department, but it's formalized and everybody in the dealership knows it and it's executed. If you would, take a moment and answer that poll question. Do you have a formalized service to sales program? Why? We know that there's more people coming in your service drive than in the front door of the dealership for sales every single day. What are we doing with those folks? They like you, they bought from you, they're servicing with you. The chances of them doing business with you again are huge. Do you have...
Now, it looks like we've got a little more of a split here, at least a moment ago, and yeah, it's growing again. Looks like a full 2/3 of respondents do not have a formal service to sales program.
This is what I call looking at your hidden wealth. Every business on earth has hidden wealth. Explaining that to you and going to, let's look at this next slide, service to sales integration. Knowing that we get more people in the service than in the sales department every single day, but we're ignoring them, and they like us, they probably bought from us, they're in the habit of coming to us, does it make sense to just let them sit there? That's hidden wealth that is very rarely tapped in a dealership. So how do you do that? There's multiple different ways. You could do a BDC approach where, as you're looking at your service appointments for the day, you could do a couple of things. Number one, you could look at the type of ticket of what they're coming in for and expected cost of that. If it's more than $500, I think that should be flagged immediately, and that should be given to your sales management, and that customer should be approached before they even get there about the possibility of a free appraisal, and then also giving them an estimate on what it would take to trade their car to get to a new car and potentially keep their payments, budgets, and all the other things incomparable to where they're at right now. So you could do it from a BDC of calling them before they ever come in, and then you can look at database mining. There are different softwares that are connected car technologies that will tell you what miles they have on the vehicle. There are different technologies out there that will tell you if they're in a position to trade, if they were financing the vehicle, and what equity they may or may not have, or by the year of the car. There's a lot of different technology that can give you a database mining scenario. But if you're not database mining, then you're leaving these people to potentially service with you, but then when they're ready, go buy from somebody else. You have to put an iron cage around your customers. You're going to lose some, but if you keep a lot of your customers, a far more majority by working on service to sales integration, you will exponentially over a period of time grow your overall sales. You'll lose less and you'll gain a lot more. The other way to do this is on service drive approach. When you approach somebody, if you've identified your top potential people, folks, we have some programs available right now. We've had a lot of customers that came in for service, and we were able to give them a free appraisal of the vehicle and an update on where they're at in the status. And a lot of people have been able to get out of their car, move to another car, keep their budgets comparable. It would take me just a few minutes to do that for you, and it's no cost. Would that be okay? And the customer says yes or no. If they say no, move on. But at least you've approached the most likely people. And your service advisor should be getting spiffed on this as well, so they have a vested interest to make sure that we can turn these. And then I think every customer that comes in, when they go to pay for their customer service, that they should have a flyer attached with the bill also telling them, and there should be a banner when they come in. It may say something to the effect of free trade appraisal or buy a new car, keep your payment the same, ask me how, some of those things. Offer a free trade appraisal evaluation, as we mentioned, and make some type of attractive offer. You may want to give them a free Starbucks coffee just for doing this. And then you can use, as I mentioned, corrected car technology like we have through Kahoo and the Spirion technology, where it will tell you how many miles are on the car in real time. It will give you a lot of different information that you'll be able to reach out and know if the customer's coming in, if they're a very, very capable customer of trading that car. But whatever you do, make sure that you're trying to get more of those customers from service, into sales. Get more, number 4, out of your technology. We just mentioned connected car technology. You can know exactly what you're doing, what the customer's doing with their car. If a customer comes in, you'll know if they're in a position to be able to trade. So there's so much technology that's connected car technology out there right now that would be able to tell you exactly where you're at with the customer and the most likely customers to buy. Next, in your DMS and CRM, as I travel around the country and work with dealerships often, I see that we're only utilizing a small percentage of the capability of our CRM and DMS. As a matter of fact, it's very possible in a lot of dealerships that you don't have good control of your rules and process for the CRM. Recently, I was in 2 different dealerships, and they had 2 different processes, one with 3 different processes. They didn't even realize they had set up in their rules for their CRM once the customer was put in. So that results in frustration with the customer and anger, also with the salespeople that think it's the CRM fault, which it's not. But what are we doing with all of our technology? I implore you, get with your vendors and hold them accountable. Rarely are we holding our CRM and our DMS vendors accountable for training us and for allowing us to have this technology that we pay a lot of dollars for to be set up and utilized profitably. Demand it from them. Then your pre-owned tools. There are many different types of pre-owned tools, but look at segmenting your database. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Not all customers are the same. Not all used cars are the same. So you want to make sure that you're breaking down your used car inventory as much as you possibly can and utilizing the data from your pre-owned tools. Look at your analytics. Look at your Google Analytics every single morning. It should be one of the top things you do to see how you get traffic, what happens with the traffic, and then also what you're doing with your pre-owned tools that could better utilize those tools with the data you're getting out of your Google Analytics. I want you to customize your setup and your rules in your CRM. I want you to do it for you and not based upon the CRM setup of what they gave you and the way they said it should be. It should be based upon what works for your dealership. Customize it. If you have not, go back, customize the rules, customize the process, customize your templates, customize your phone scripts. And as we mentioned before, utilize intentional congruence. What would take one contact to the next action? Not just a contact, what drives contact to action? And the next one, number 5, dig deeper. Dig deeper, dig deeper, dig deeper. Get more out of every single customer. We know that when a customer buys a car, there's a chance another car is sold right in that household. And people are walking around with mobile phones today with huge database of contacts. Are you asking them for a couple of those contacts at least? I don't care whether you're doing it mobile or whether you're doing it with an old school referral sheet. I mean, going back 25 years ago, we handed a referral sheet and told the customer we were going to double check on the car. Would they please fill this out? It asked for 3 potential people that would be the most likely people to buy a vehicle in the next 6 months. It asked them for their birthdays, their anniversaries. It asked them for all the things that you would have and put in your CRM as natural contacts. It asked them for the other vehicles in their household, their drivers in the household. And one of the things that was important that nobody really ever thought about was who would be the most likely person to buy your present vehicle. You'd be surprised how many people will tell you who would buy your vehicle, so you're setting up the next sale. Dig deeper, get more out of every single customer than you ever have before. So you could do referral sheets, you could do it through the mobile phone prospecting through their contact base that they have, that everybody has. Do total household prospecting, looking at There's going to be 2 and 3 vehicles in a household often. Who is the buyer? What are their age? Which one is next? And then work through that database in your CRM. Unsold customer, long-term follow-up. I learned a long time ago from a top salesperson. He took every customer that he worked with that he did not sell, that bought somewhere else. He put them in a database and he worked with them as if he had sold them. Why? He said nobody else will follow up with them. They probably won't even be there. So what he did was he converted a huge amount of the people that he missed on the first go-round and the first contact. They bought somewhere else, but he wound up getting them back to him because he showed value and continued to follow up just as if he had sold them. Then also today, it's easier than ever before. Social connection and testimony. Facebook. Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. If you're a millennial, most millennials really don't use Facebook a lot. They may use Instagram or other different features that are out there, Snapchat, etc. But I got to tell you, I believe the 900-pound gorilla is Facebook. I think you'll get more out of it, so I would invite you to get more involved with Facebook. Often, I'll see salespeople want to friend me, and they don't even show on their Facebook where they work, what they do, or have any incentive for anyone to try to stay with them and follow them through Facebook. Offer value, and I believe, just me personally, that you can't talk business all the time on Facebook. As a matter of fact, people want to get to know you. It's kind of like a reality TV show. They want to know who they can buy from, who they can trust. And you build that over a period of time by showing them your heart. You show them who you are. You show them your dogs and cats, and people would say, oh, I don't believe in that. But I'm just giving you my opinion. You're not a salesperson. You're a person. And when people buy, they want to buy from people, but they don't want to be sold by salespeople. So let them see the totality of who you are in a running story, whether it is in Instagram, whether it is on Facebook, but make sure you're utilizing as much as you can your social connectivity. Also combine that with video or Facebook Live or YouTube videos. Today, people are going on YouTube to find out more and more and more things constantly. So they want to see how to work garage door openers. They want to see features. But educate people. Give them information, and then you're buying trust and creating connection. And also beyond videos, pictures. Pictures and videos, the old phrase, is worth 1,000 words. So make sure you're using something that people can connect with today. Number 6, get stronger in pre-owned. You're probably, if it's the end of the year, not going to drive a new car market. You might be a dealership that does, but for everyone that does, you're going to spend way more money trying to do that than what you'll get back in an ROI. The one thing I know, if the marketplace changes and goes down and corrects itself, you may not be able to move, no matter what you spend, a new car market, but you can definitely drive a pre-owned used car market. Go back to being a very good used car dealer. So we know we can move a pre-owned market. Segment and niche. I talk about a tiered turn policy. I don't look at every vehicle as if it's the same. If a vehicle is from 0 to 10,000, and then you have 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and $20,000 above, if you're a domestic store, if you look at your wholesale losses and your aging, they're often in the category of the $20,000 and above car that you bought at an auction. And so you've got about a 15-day window to try to make money. After that, it goes down by about 70%. So I'm going to take that vehicle, that $20,000 and above vehicle, and I'm going to put that on a 30-day term. Yes, 30 days. And even if you got to go replace it with something else that you say is the same money, maybe you make it 45, but I want the emphasis on pricing that vehicle aggressively and turning it now. Dead capital, dead metal, dead plastic, it does nothing for you. You've got to get ROI out of it quickly, and you got about 30 days. So I would do a turn on that car quicker than I would a below $10,000 car. Some people may disagree with me, but if it's a $10,000 and a below car, I don't have much risk. Those cars are like gold. People love those cars if you sell those types of cars. They want and need those. It's not probably going to go down in value. It may be okay for you to have those vehicles below 10,000 for 90 days. Your middle two segments, you may have them for 60 days, and then you may have the $20,000 and above car for 45 days or even 30 days as a turn. I love a tiered turn process because I think it puts the emphasis on money and not cars. And a car is an investment. I don't fall in love with metal. I want it to turn and make me the most money. So utilize a turn tiered program. Also, when you're marketing your cars, make sure that you're marketing with payments. A lot of people do not understand, no matter how much they shop, that a car that is priced at $29,995 is a good or a bad deal. But they do know that $500 a month either fits or does not fit in their budget. On your special pages and throughout your marketing of wherever, online, offline, conventional, digital, try to utilize, don't try, do utilize a lot more of budget-type marketing along with just prices. And then also today, it says analyze 31 metrics of a pre-owned inventory. That's too much to go into today, but what we're going to do is offer that up as a free bonus for anybody that's on this call, and we'll be able to let you know how you can get it. But anybody on this call today, you'll get a follow-up email, and you'll be able to get this free special report of how to analyze the 31 key metrics of your pre-owned inventory. And then last but not least, number 7 thing you must do to prepare for a successful 2019. Work from your financial statement backwards. Nobody has a perfect financial statement. So we got to look for areas of opportunity. We want to go over every line, and we know that we generally get out of whack in a couple areas like either personnel expense or advertising expense. And I'm not telling you right now that you have to cut those back, but if you're spending such a high percentage in personnel expense, then you got to examine what it is you have to do to readjust that. So I'm going to look at my financial statement, and I'm going to pull out every single detailed report and line item for each expense structure and go over it with a fine-tooth comb. And I'm going to say, does this justify me having this expense? I want you to review every single contract you have in your dealership with every vendor. Go back to the vendor and see if this is giving you an ROI. If it is not, then you have to think, is this something I have to get rid of, or that I should renegotiate this contract at this point, or get rid of this because it's not giving me what I need. Be ruthless with every single contract that you have. What are those areas of opportunities? You have to look at everything out of line with a benchmark. If you're in a 20 group or you're utilizing different benchmarks, what falls out of line? If you're trying to be at an 18% compensation level and you're at 35, you got problems. If your total overall expense per employee is way, way high, then you either got a gross profit problem or you've got a expense problem. But most likely you're going to have to adjust this, or you're going to have a bad time as things get tougher in the marketplace. I want you to look at systemically, if you have issues on your financial statement, going back to the systemic issue of what created that, how it got there. And I want you to create a fail-safe mechanism so that you have this written and communicated so you never have that happen again. Often when we have emergency items or things that bring us down, we can systemically identify how we got there, and we can say these are the things that we will do in the future to keep us from getting back to that position. So you want to examine your people. Do I have the right people? Do I have them in the right slots? Do I need to recruit more people, which I believe you do every single day? It's like the NFL draft. You're trying to improve your personnel. Pay plans. You want to examine your pay plans. We don't want to change pay plans every week because that creates distrust, but you got to look at your pay plans at the end of the year. Then it's a very good time to examine your marketing, your digital, your conventional, your mix, and look at 3 things: your message, your media, and your match. There's generally no such thing as a bad media, but often it's a bad message and it's a bad match of the media to the message. So if you're making $1, keep growing that dollar in whatever media you're using. I don't look at bad media. I look at the bad message and match more than anything else. And then understand what I call scarcity-based thinking. If you're going into winter months, if you have a downturn in the market, I'll often hear dealers say something I call the when-then syndrome. And I know when I hear that, that's scarcity-based thinking. When we get to here, then we'll do this. What you will find in life is when you do the when-then syndrome, you never get there to do that. In business, you're going to have to go ahead as if you're already there. You're going to have to risk. You may have to add somebody. You may have to add technology. You may have to add something. Be scrupulous with what you do add, but please, when you hear yourself doing the when-then syndrome, you know you're in scarcity-based thinking. And whether it's the end of the year in the winter months or whether it is in a downturn in a market, I've never seen anybody save themselves to a profit for a long period of time. You're going to have to figure out how to grow, not contract. Those are 7 things that you can do to prepare for a successful 2019 to not only survive, but to thrive. And so now, after all that information, I want to just open it up to some questions. Anything at all?
We already have several, so let's dive right in. The first question, presumably from a dealer or GM or sales manager, is how can I get my staff to buy into training? And I'll add to that by asking, is it enough to establish a formal training program to install the service to sales process you talked about? Or are dealers and managers going to have to take some extra steps to get true buy-in from the staff?
That is a great question. What do you do to get buy-in for training? Number one, I believe that there are certain things that what I call black-white issues. I don't want to have a million of them to become unmaneuverable, inflexible, if you will, in my approach as a leader. But there are certain things that there's no gray area. It's black, it's white. It is what it is. Nobody should ever want to allow not being trained, not being educated. So it is something that you do and that you do religiously, and people know that right up front. It's written in your rule set. It's written in your book. Every department should have a playbook. If it's F&I, new car, used car, if I parachute it into your dealership, you have a playbook that's written out with all your processes, including training. And so I believe you have to do a formalized training program. Now, that being said, it's a non-negotiable, period. I don't care who you are, it's a non-negotiable. But to get buy-in, because I think it's important, when you do it every single day and you make it about them, when the why gets strong, the how gets easy. Figure out why they want to do what they do. It's more than just money. Everybody has a different why. A 60-year-old person may have a different why than a 23-year-old person that's newer to the business. So train, but try to make it more towards the why of that person and let them see that it's not going to go away, that you're doing it diligently every day, that it's in small bursts, and let them see that they're growing from it and getting benefit and selling more and making more. And then keep expanding on that in every meeting that you have, that you talk about your successes and you bring up different people having successes from that training. But you do have to set the expectation. One is a buy-in, but two, you can't start off saying, well, okay, nobody's buying in, so I'm not going to do training. You're going to do training no matter what and then work on the buy-in.
Got it. So the next question up here is, how do I get my service messages to break through all the clutter? And I guess the background on that is that dealers and their competitors and third parties are becoming increasingly sophisticated, right? They have new ways to send service specials that save customers money. They have new ways to sell, to share recall notices. It's getting crowded. How do you break through that clutter?
Well, one would be the connected car technology, because you can know what somebody's miles are. You can know also with different database software where you can know where somebody is in a position to trade and whether they have equity in the vehicle. And you can talk to them personally based upon their driving habits. You can talk to them about what they did last time, what type of car. So talk to them personally. That's the biggest thing. And then 2, try to provide something where they're continually coming to you, whether that's a lifetime powertrain program that provides that they have to come with you to keep it active. Whatever it is, put an iron cage around them to where they feel like they want to come with you and not go somewhere else. Because once you lose them in service, you lose the potential to sell another car on down the road. The statistics are something like 71 to 77% of the people will give you an opportunity to sell them another car if they're servicing with you religiously.
Interesting. And that's a perfect lead into the next question, actually, which is what tools should I prioritize to invest in for my dealership? We've discussed a few. Is it some sort of social media management tool? Is it a simple appointment setting tool for the service department? If a dealer is getting ready to make the kind of leap you've described here, what's the first investment?
Well, you can use the connected car technology tools. That's an app from Kahoo, and that will help you know what the customer is doing, what their mileage is on the car. There are database mining software, as we mentioned. There's software out there that will connect to your DMS, and by the triggers within your service department can continually send messages via either email, voice broadcast, or text. And there's ones in that trigger that will tell you if a customer has not been in to your service department in 6 months. And what that will do is immediately go to that customer and say, we haven't seen you for a while, and here's an inducement. There's also triggers within your DMS that will tell you if somebody had a declined offer for service, and you can come back to them with a drop-down offer via voice broadcast technology, email, or text. So there's so much technology out there. I would invite you to look at those things to try to be in personalized contact with your customers for service.
Great. The final question we have in the queue here is, what's the best time to ask a customer for a testimonial? And we can break that into 2 parts. What's the best time to ask a sold customer for a testimonial? What's the best time to ask a service customer for a testimonial?
Right then and there at the height of the emotion. Now, I've shoved it up even further than that. At the end of a demo drive, I have no problem taking out my cell phone and saying, here, Mr. Customer, get in front of your car real quick. I want to take a picture of you. And smile at them. Say, come on, humor me. I want to get a picture in front of your new car. Now, if I get a picture of that customer in front of their new car before they've even bought the car, I'll even take it further and say, here, let me text it to you if I have authorization for text, or if they will allow me to tag them and put it on their Facebook wall. Imagine if I had this vehicle they haven't even bought yet on their Facebook wall, and they've allowed that to happen. You know that they're going to buy that car, and there's a whole lot of social pressure and social proof that they're buying that car. So I believe in doing it in the moment, not later, and especially even doing it before they've even bought the car to create some social proof.
Absolutely. Oh, great question just came in. A reader named Frank. I have a terrible problem getting customers to communicate with me after I get their lead from the usual sources. He lists TrueCar, Facebook, Craigslist, and Car Gurus. I've tried all the ways possible to let them know I want to help them. What is the answer?
That's a great question, and I would tell Frank you're not the only one. A lot of those particular leads are coming from many different sources. Some of them may be legitimate leads and some may not. But you have to think of what is their hope for gain. So one of the things that I do differently is I create a little free special report, and that's called 7 Things Everybody Should Know Before They Buy a Vehicle. So I will give a free special report educating people. So I'm not asking them to buy. I'm just trying to give them something that will create trust and allow them to get to the next step. You may also send them a video walk around of that particular vehicle. You can also use video email technology that will allow you to say, hi, this is Mark. I just wanted you to see the smiling face of the person that will hopefully help you with the purchase of your vehicle. Right on the screen right here is my direct cell phone number, and that may be a number that you've set up through your CRM, but you can make sure that they can call or text you, so you're personalizing it. So try to give them more than what anybody else is doing. Right now, people are trying to call or email, and if they have text approval, they're doing that. But think about how you can reward people, whether it's a video, whether it's a video email introduction, whether it's a video walk around, whether it's a free special report. So think about how you can educate them and give them hope for gain, and hopefully you'll stand out.
Well, that's great advice. Thanks so much, and for all the great information and insights you've shared. That's pretty much all the time we have for today. Again, anyone who asked a question that wasn't answered, Mark will be following up via email to answer your questions individually. We hope that you all enjoyed today's webinar. I want to again thank Mark Tuert and Spirion for today's presentation. I also want to mention that this webinar will be available on demand at autodealertoday.com/webinars. Thanks again, Mark. Thanks to all of you for tuning in, and have a great day.
Thank you.